writers, you're listening to the Kobo Writing Life podcast, where we bring you insights and inspiration for growing your self-publishing business. We're your hosts. I'm Rachel, Author Engagement Manager at Kobo Writing Life.
And I'm Tara, Director of Kobo Writing Life. On today's episode, we're talking to Lexi Blake, who is a New York Times bestselling author of the Masters and Mercenaries and Lawless series. She began writing at a young age, concentrating on plays and journalism, and it wasn't until she started writing romance that she found her success. She lives in North Texas with her family, and I have the pleasure of meeting her in person a number of times.
And Tara and I had a lovely chat with Lexi. I do truly think we could have kept talking for hours, and not only because Lexi also loves Buffy the Vampire Slayer as much as I do. Tara's rolling her eyes right now. But we did talk to Lexi about her longtime career as a romance author and how the industry has changed and evolved throughout her career. We talked about writing spicy scenes and how to tackle those as an author. And we also chatted about the challenges that come with marketing spicy books. And we also had a really nice conversation about books as therapy, both from the perspective of a writer and as a reader. And Lexi just had so much great advice for new and seasoned authors alike. We really hope you enjoy.
We're joined today with author Lexi Blake. Thanks so much for joining us, Lexi.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So you began your publishing journey back in 2010, and I'm curious, so what motivated you to pursue indie publishing and what's evolved in your approach since then?
So I actually started in small press publishing. I started back in way back in the day. I feel like I should be sitting in a little telling the stories of the old days. Back in the day when there were a lot of small presses, especially for romance. They were doing a lot of like niche romance that the big, at that point in time, there might have been 6 that the big traditional publishers weren't touching at the time. So I kind of got my start in there. The reason I ended up, because I've done publishing pretty much every way you can. I've been with Berkeley, which is a big 4 now. I don't know. Anyway, Berkeley, which is Penguin Random House. I've been with small press, and then I've done indie work as well. What really pressed me to do indie work was, at the time, the little niche publisher that I was writing for, they were known for a very specific type of book. And the book that I wanted to publish was not that type of book. So I basically decided, you know what, this is just kind of starting up. And Sylvia Day had started writing Crossfire. And so it suddenly seemed like indie publishing was a thing that I might be able to do. So I took my romantic suspense, BDSM crazy James Bond thing, and that was my first indie published book.
And from the beginnings of your indie publishing to now, has your approach to kind of deciding how you want to release a book or your approach to indie publishing in general changed?
I think it's gotten easier, but then I also think that I don't want to overstate this because there's still a lot of drama. I think as a romance community, we become more accepting of the things that aren't just middle of the road. You know, those books have always been around and always will be published. And we've gotten more accepting of the kind of weirder stories, like, you know, now we're all romantic and dark romance and like crazy things that way back in 2010, I was told I wasn't romance. I wasn't really writing romance because I didn't fit that mold. So I think that in that particular case, it's gotten easier to publish indie. I think it's gotten harder because we are flooding the market, but that is to be expected when the gatekeepers are gone. And that's really a good thing. It can just be harder to find your place and make your space. That I will say was way easier back in 2011 when very few people were doing it. So if you had a name from kind of a traditional publishing or even a small press publishing and you went out on your own, you kind of came in with an audience.
And do you think the readers for the more niche genres that we're seeing more and more of now have always existed? Or do you think that the growing popularity in romance has allowed readers to find their niche?
I think that maybe they wouldn't have thought that was something that they would have enjoyed, but it was always there. It was always there. I mean, I love the idea. There are a lot of younger women who get out and they're in their 20s and early 30s. And like these authors are working. I mean, they are working. They're doing such great jobs. The one thing that irritates me is when they say, this is not your mama's romance novel. And I'm like, girl, you did not read my mama's romance novel. My mama's romance novel was a bodice ripper where she ended up with 7 different men before she got to the end of it. So, like, I don't know what your mama was reading. I know what mine was. Yeah, so I think that those things have always been around. They're just kind of more refined and we have kind of more access to it now.
I love that. And I wanted to know what drew you to kind of writing romance. I know often it's avid readers that kind of become writers themselves. Is that how you got into the genre?
So my mother, whose her romances were 1970s and 80s bodice rippers.
Love it.
It's like 1982. I find a copy of Bertree Small's Sky O'Malley. Pick it up. My mom's like, it's just words, honey. It was the 80s. Okay. So it's the 80s. My mom, it's just words, honey. You go read that. I did. And I was hooked forever. And I read, like, I'm 13 years old reading Johanna Lindsay's, like, Viking Warriors. And I probably shouldn't have. But hey, I mean, I'm here now. So I'm not going to complain about it. My mother was such an avid romance reader that I was kind of surrounded by it. And it was just always what I liked to read.
Was she really proud when you became a romance writer?
Yeah. My mom read everything I ever wrote up until she died.
Oh, I love that. Like, that's really sweet. I'm glad that you're able to you have this connection with, that's the trajectory of your life, just came from a book.
Yeah. And complained. I remember she was very, very firmly against one of my menages. Because she was like, she should just be with this one. I'm like, Mom, just keep reading. Just keep reading.
I love that so much. And are you still a romance reader as much as you're a writer?
Yeah, I think I read less. It can be hard. I read less than I did like before I sat around writing for 6 hours a day. But I still probably read 10 books a year. So right now I'm just hooked on romantasy like everybody else.
And luckily, those are the longer ones, so they keep you in for a while.
That might be why I'm down to that, because when you're reading an E, you don't realize that this book is like 300,000 words long. Like, you're just in it, and you're just like, oh, I hope this book never ends, and it doesn't.
That's good. It keeps you in as the reader.
Then you get the audio, and you realize it is 30 hours long, and you're like, what?
Will you listen to a book that you've read that you'd like, or do you pick and choose which? Like, how do you decide?
I love to listen to things I've already read. And I'm sure that this comes down to how I take in information. It's easier for me to take information in when I'm reading it. And then I get to go back and kind of relive the experience through audio when I want, like, comfort food.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I do that a lot. Or sometimes I am so involved in the book and I have to cook dinner. And I just go and buy the audiobook and pick up where I am. And then I have done that many a time.
I do that when I have to walk the dog. I'm like, but I can't stop listening to this thing or reading this thing. Yeah. So I'm curious about your kind of indie experience in particular. And what would you say is some of the biggest challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
The biggest challenge is getting your team together, really, because when you're an indie author, you are the team. I was uniquely blessed with, I have a best friend who has a degree in technical writing and loved romance. And so about 10 years before I published, I basically, sat her down and told her, well, if you'll help me and edit this, well, maybe we can build something. She is still with me. She's edited every single one of my books. She runs a good portion of my business because I'm terrible at that part. The business part, I feel like I'm really bad at. And I have a husband, has a master's degree in finance, who basically left his job to come home and run the financial aspect of it. And luckily he knows a lot about coding, so he can do that part. So I am a case study for having the right people around you. I now also have a young woman who runs my social media, because if you're trying to run your own social media at 54, get a 20-year-old. Just go out and get a Maria. right now. It's so good. So I really do think that figuring out where you can bring in people to help you is very important, because if you're trying to do it all yourself, you're going to get burned out really, really fast. And I know that that's an easy thing to say, because the first two people who helped me, one of them was doing it for a portion of like a percentage of what I brought in, and that was zero for a long time. And the other one is married to me, so he couldn't leave. But sometimes look around and see what you have like in your family and the people you trust.
I think that's great advice, because not only are you running your own business entirely as an indie author, but writing can also be a very isolating experience because it is such a solo activity.
It is. And you can kind of get in your own little headspace. And I don't know that that's necessarily good for, I know we're all most authors are introverts. We need to be forced out a little bit. I think the other really important thing is making connections with other authors and with people who can give you advice, people you can collectively publicize your books with. All of it's very important to be a part of the world. And in our case, Romancelandia, as we call it, for all of its, craziness and drama, it's a really warm and loving world where we know that publishing isn't a zero-sum game. And authors helping other authors is something that's very important.
I always say it's one of my favorite things about getting to work in this community, or sort of, I sometimes feel like we're just a little spy on the edge of the community, but I love how, authors build other authors up. And especially it's like a lot of women building up other women as well, which is so refreshing.
I love that.
I'm curious, maybe you're not actually the person that's in the weeds doing sort of like the technical pieces or anything, but if you could share any experience that you had as a Kobo Writing Life user, I would love to hear how that experience has been with you.
Well, it also, it's really great when you get to actually talk to people like Tara, who I've known for, 10, at least a decade.
It was, I was thinking about it, that we met at the last RT in Reno.
Oh, did we? Okay. So it's probably been 6 or 7.
Yeah.
It's really nice when you have that kind of stability and you can go to that person and talk to them about what's available. It's very important for you to work with the vendor, because there are often times a lot of opportunities for you to get your book out in front of people, which is absolutely the most important thing. People can't read you if they don't know your book is there. And, everybody will tell you your newsletter is your best, but they didn't tell you have people in your newsletter. You need to figure out a way to, basically get that book out in front of people, and working with your vendors can be one of the absolute best ways to do it. What I loved about Kobo in particular is that first of all, it's very easy to use, but second, y'all have done some like innovative things. I would not be as popular in the Netherlands. I would not if it wasn't for Kobo. And Kobo Plus has done brilliant things, because you get all the joy of a subscription plan without having to be exclusive.
Yes, love to hear that, and love to be able to supply this audience to authors. Like, that's always such a great part of the job as well. Just seeing your readership grow worldwide, which it for sure has. Like, that's so awesome.
Well, I noticed you said vendors plural, and of course, Kobo is one of those vendors, which means that you are publishing widely. I'm curious, what led to the decision to have your books available on so many different platforms?
It's kind of twofold. First of all, I personally want as much of an audience as I can possibly get. Secondly, I just don't believe in putting all my eggs in one basket. I think that from a financial standpoint, you can make a lot of money doing that, but you are always running the risk of, if that's cut off, you're done. And that's something that indie authors, is kind of the dark side of indie authors. When you don't have a publisher out there, especially when you're working in those little niches that we talked about, there have been times over my career where somebody has decided that we have like the panic attack about, though these books are bad, and all of a sudden the author's cut off from certain vendors, and there's no getting back. So I do think that it can be important just for me, for my peace of mind, to be wide so that if the worst happens, I haven't lost everything. And in today's climate, that feels more and more like it happens. So, I mean, look, I think every indie author right now, especially every indie romance author, is just sitting around hoping that we're still here in a year.
Absolutely. And you've kind of touched on publishing on Kobo, but as the promotions girly on the Kobo Writing Life team, I'm very curious if you've utilized any specific promo tools on Kobo or just generally on all of your wide vendors to help with your marketing strategy.
Absolutely. I do a lot of Kindle daily deals on the Zon. I do a lot of the Apple. Apple does some, we've got a promo coming up with Apple on their Romance of the Week. And then I've done a ton of Kobo. Y'all do a lot of like buy 3, get 1 free, or that is really, I found that really helpful in growing an audience. Just having those promos where it makes it easy for the reader to we like to call them on-ramps to get on the highway. That's what I think makes a really great partnership between the author and the vendor.
And do you ever, I mean, I know a lot of promotions and timing are very much out of your control, but do you ever find that stacking promos on different vendors is an effective strategy?
Like a BookBub?
Yeah, like a BookBub, and then applying for different promos on different vendors at the same time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more eyes you can get on something, the better you're going to be. I think that I want to do another, like, indie author beware, not of your vendor promos, but there are a lot of predatory people who come after indie authors who want to they're going to tell the new author who has stars in her eyes so they can make you big. All you have to do is pay this much for promo. And what I would tell them is that usually the absolute best promo you don't typically pay for. That's not BookBub. BookBub still works pretty well, but they're like, I don't know if like buying a bunch of ads, like you need to figure out what works. Buying ads in newsletters that aren't yours. Obviously, buying ads in like AMS ads or something like that does work, but you need to find the formula. And buying ads on social media, same way. You just need to go in knowing that you're going to have to do a lot of testing. You're going to have to figure out what works and what gets eyes on you.
I think that's great advice because have you ever Googled just self-publishing or how to publish a book recently? And it's a lot of stuff that I'm not even familiar with or anything. So I think that goes back to what you say about the community and having that resource where you can be like, actually, is this worth applying to or getting advice from other authors is so valuable.
It's always, it's always just when money is on the line and you're paying for something, just check.
Yeah.
Just do your due diligence, make a check with the understanding that that not everyone is out there for you.
So I want to talk about your books for a little bit, if that's cool. So your books are sort of known for like their engaging romance. So how would you describe the level of spice in your writing?
I'm pretty like habanero, maybe. I would not say that I am like a Carolina Reaper. But I probably, if I were looking at my book and it was a pepper, I probably would not eat it because that's hot. But I'm pretty high up there.
And do you think that the spice makes the romance more captivating, or is that what the readers are looking for, or is it just definitely like a personal choice in the book?
For me, if the heat level, if the spice in the book, if you can take it out and the book is the same, then it shouldn't be there. So if for me, working through an intimate scene, that's character development, that's relationship development, and it should be there, and it should be as psychological as it is physical. So for me, if you try to like skip the intimate scenes in my book, you're going to get really confused because they work out a lot of things during those moments.
Are you ever not in the mood to write them, or is that the best part of the job?
Always. I hit menopause. No. I kind of want to write cozy cat mysteries some days where, Mr. Snuggles solves the mystery, but I still love it. It's a job like anything else. There are days when you kind of have to work your way up to, I'm going to tackle that scene because that scene's important, but I still love blowing stuff up. That's still like heavy in my heart. Let's blow some stuff up.
Well, and kind of along the same lines, I can imagine, like, I have never attempted to write a spicy scene in a book. I am not a writer, nor should I be. But I'm curious if you have any advice for anybody who wants to write a romance, but finds writing sex scenes really intimidating.
Well, the question is, do you like reading them? So if it's something that I would tell every single writer who's working today, write what you like to read, write the stories that you love. If you don't love spice, a lot of people will tell you to write to market. The market changes so fast that trying to keep up with that will give you a career where you might hit every 2 or 3 years. Write what you love and build your brand around that, even if it's not hot right now. Even if it feels like nobody, I'm sure that publishing would tell you the romantic suspense is dead. I write romantic suspense and I still make a great career. It's just nobody's talking about it right now. So what you'll do is you'll have these waves. And you get to ride the wave for a little while, and then you hit a trough. And that's kind of the challenge of being a working author, where this is how you feed your children. So if you don't like writing spice, don't write it. There are tons and tons and tons that are books out there that are closed door. There is a market for it. There are a ton that are, I don't know, what you call it? Slightly open door, cracked open door, like fade to black, that's the great thing about indie publishing is anything you want to write, there is an audience for it. All you have to do is find it.
And do you have a favorite trope that you like to write about?
I have a couple. I really, really love friends to lovers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that comes down to the way my marriage worked. I think that feels easy and natural for me to write. I am really beginning to like enemies to lovers too, though. I think when I look back at it, because my husband's always like, well, we were a friends to lovers story. He was like, what about high school? There were 4 years there. It was like that trope changed. So, I think that was in there too. But I think those are the two I love most of all.
And I feel like tropes are really so kind of mainstream now in that they've always existed. And I think people that read or write in the space always know that, but they're so, maybe it's because of Book Talk that has put them up in front. But what are your thoughts about that and how the young readership is seeing tropes?
I think it's interesting. I think that sometimes, and this has been true throughout romance, there are some readers who are going to be like, that is my author. I will read anything they do. And there are some readers who are like, that's my trope. And that's what I want to read. And I don't, I liked this writer when she wrote this trope, but she's writing this trope now. And so you kind of have to understand that readers aren't necessarily, once you have them, don't necessarily stay. You kind of have to keep hooking them back in and reeling them back. And yeah, I love that we're identifying these tropes and we talk in this little language of our own. But sometimes I also wish that they just be, there are lots of good things about lots of tropes. I think any trope can be written well, even the ones that you hate. Even the ones that you hate, if it's done well, I think you can enjoy it.
Well, I was going to ask a potentially controversial question, which is there a trope you don't love to write?
Ooh.
Feel free to answer no.
I suppose there are. I'm just not thinking of it right now. There are some accidental pregnancy. I don't really like accidental pregnancy. I don't mind surprise child. I don't particularly like, and there has to be a reason she didn't tell him, like a really, really good one. I think that one's hard. And I think the miscommunication trope is really hard. When the entire conflict could have been settled with one conversation, you need to have a really good reason why that conversation did not happen. And it should be that he got hit over the head and went missing for 5 years. Or, you know what I'm saying? Something like that. I think those are the two that I kind of struggle with a little bit. Even though, like I said, I really do like writing. I like writing kids in books. I think they're fun. They make these great characters who can walk into a room and blow it up. But I struggle a little bit with the pregnancy and Like, I just want to let that woman does not need drama. That woman needs tea and somebody to rub her feet.
I love that. You're like, be kind to the characters
Yes,
that you're writing.
Be kind to your heroine.
You're so right. And kind of along the same lines, like when we started off this conversation, you mentioned the niche and like you have a niche in romance. And I'm curious kind of if yours and how yours has evolved throughout your writing career.
Oh, okay. So I started with kind of with two niches. Menage. My first book was a book called Small Town Siren, and it was about these two cowboys and this older woman that they fall madly for. And then my secondary niche would be BDSM, which I think that I think I even started out this way. And over the course of the years, I hope I have refined it. I like to use the idea of BDSM, especially dominance and submission, as a metaphor for what's happening in the relationship and a tool for building the relationship in a proper way. In consensual talking. It's very important for these people. So in a setting, then this is what I kind of mean when I was talking about why the spice was important. So characters who would not talk about things that they should talk about when they're sitting there at a dinner table, suddenly when they're in a club and they're in the right atmosphere, suddenly they do talk. Suddenly they're more willing to be open and vulnerable in a way they wouldn't be if they, I don't know, weren't wearing a corset and a thong, which sounds weird, but it all works in the end. So I think that in a lot of ways I've kind of, and Menage, I view it very much as there need to be a reason why she needs these two guys. It can't just be, hey, we like her, let's go. Emotionally, there has to be, I kind of tend to view my Menages as this is one perfect guy who somehow got split in two. And so this one's giving, this energy, this one's giving her this energy, and this is what she needs. So I think that's kind of how I've evolved over the years, is kind of refining what I see those niches and the important parts of them being.
I was going to make a Buffy the Vampire Slayer reference, but I know, okay, you would understand. It's like the episode where Xander gets split in two.
Oh, no, true. Except that one of the Xanders was very struggled. He struggled
a little bit. He struggled a lot.
One of the Xanders struggled. But I also look at it like Angel and Spike.
Yeah.
So you've got the guy who would sacrifice to save the world, and you've got the guy who would burn the world down for her. And you really kind of want a mix of them because separately they do a lot of things. But I actually ended up I wrote a series called Fairy Story where they were symbiotic twins. So they're literally these fae men who their soul split. And so you had the warrior and the scholar, and they were just two very different sides of basically the same man.
I love it. And I would read that Spike and Angel book in a heartbeat.
I could do it. I should someday. It's coming back. So
I'm here ready when you are.
I was going to say, Rachel will tell you it never left. It's not the first Buffy reference that we've had on this podcast.
Nor will it be the
I can
last.
talk Buffy all day.
Well, you and I are going to have a date someday, and we're going to do just that. But back to books. Your books, like you said, are the habanero level spicy. So how do you market them to ensure that you are finding readers who also want that level of spice? And do you ever run into any complications marketing books that are on the spicier side?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I could do 2 hours on this subject. The great thing is, so when we started out, let's go back to 2011. It was kind of the wild, wild west. And those covers, some of them are like wicked, crazy covers that you could never get through a bot now. You could not. You need to know, again, it's really helpful. Like by the time you get to, I'm at 110 books, people kind of know what to expect from you. So kind of having that brand is really helpful. So I can put like really pretty covers that they do have something to do with the book, but they're not like handsy. Like you need to know what the limits are, and you need to respect them. You need to know what your terms of service are, although they're not always really clear. This is again where you can rely on other authors and authors groups because a lot of them have stepped on those landmines and they can tell you where not to step. So yeah, but you have to be careful. You have to be careful with your blurbs. You have to be careful with your covers. You have to be careful with your titles. It's just it's very different from the landscape that we had back in 2010, 2011.
I think that's good advice to have. And I'm just trying to consider as well with your covers, I guess, from like a vendor perspective. Not that we're like, I was going to say like all that conservative, but it is something that we keep in mind when you're picking things for promotions and stuff. It's like you just want to make sure things are not like too racy.
Yeah, look, there's a long discussion about the prevalence of male nipples. Like I think that Romancelandia, like you could see us all, we sit down for hours discussing what is and isn't the proper use of the male nipple, the mipple. Can it be a little hidden? Is 1 okay? 2 is definitely not okay. Can it be like sliding out from his vest? Like these are the discussions, sadly, that we have. Which is why we've gone to like now all of a sudden you need like at least 2 covers. One of them has to be discreet. Yeah, it's a lot. Covers are a very, very controversial subject.
And is it fun putting them together, or is it a little stressful when you're having to consider all of this?
When you find a cover artist who you can work with really well, it tends to be a breeze. It tends to be really great because a lot of times your cover artist knows way more than you do. And that's the other advice I would give is when you find a good artist, let them do their job. I know that you have this idea in your head of what you want and like you want to get exactly this thing. I have found when I am too specific, that's when the covers don't come out right. When I give them, this is the vibe I want, this is the kind of mood I want, here's a little bit of the writing, and let that artist do what they do. That's when you come up with some spectacular results.
Nice. And I want to chat about your kind of relationship with your readers as well. Do you ever take any feedback from readers on covers and things, or is it more just...
I don't do a lot of, usually when my cover's done, it's done. And
right.
I don't put those together myself. I do use cover artists. Like getting 2 or 3 choices gets really expensive. I've had readers who told me that that's not the model's not who they thought when they saw. And my response to that is, but everybody has a different, I can describe him one way and every single person's going to see someone different. So, we work with what we have. I don't tend to read reviews unless something comes up that's like, this is consistent. If they said my pacing consistently was off, I would have to sit and think about that. But like, I've gotten really good over the years with people who everybody gets 1-star reviews. Everybody, you have not made it in publishing until somebody has told you they have never read a worse book in the history of time. You are the worst writer. You're terrible. Like, develop a thick skin. It's actually really nice. I'm, 15 years in, and I can read a 2-star review and go, okay, well, that didn't connect with that person, and move on. If you ever, as a newbie author, get a review and like you're super down, go look at the reviews for the books you love. Like the book that you think is the best written book in the history of time. I assure you, there are 1-star reviews saying it's worst. So I don't know. I don't take a lot of feedback because I don't write by committee. And that sounds harsh. And I don't mean that readers shouldn't have feelings but I think that I know what I'm doing and I want them to trust me to lead them where we're going to go.
So I'm curious then, how do you engage with your readers and how do you kind of balance that engagement with your writing and writing schedule?
I have, I do a lot of social media. This year we kind of switched it. So instead of it being kind of like teasers and stuff, I'm going back through and spending time writing out like what inspired me to write this, whether it was a setting or a song that caught me so I'm doing that. And that's really kind of cool to hear the feedback on like, I didn't know that, that song existed. That's really cool. And I do a lot of interaction on my like reader group. And I answer email. I try to answer email.
Yeah, I feel like the romance reader, romance writer relationship is very connected, more so than other genres. So is it a little bit hard to kind of balance that? Or because you want to engage with them, but you also have to get the writing done?
Yeah. No, I think that's a balance. It's a balance. And I think in the beginning, you might feel like you have to answer every little thing that comes on, like answer all your emails. But you have to answer every little message that comes up on your Facebook or your Instagram feed. And, sometimes if you're in the midst of writing, you might lose that thread, and you need to give yourself some grace. But, try to be open and active with fans, but they also want you to write the next book.
That's a good thing to keep you motivated, actually. Yeah. So you've talked a little bit before about that you see books as kind of like a form of therapy. And I'm wondering if you could speak to this a little bit.
Well, I didn't realize it at first. I thought, I did not realize that this is my therapy. I sometimes don't even know what I'm working out until I get to the end of the book. My husband reads it. He has read every single book I've ever written, comes back and says, okay, we should talk because I did that. Like, I did that to you. And things blew up, and they didn't in here, but I don't want them to blow up in here. And then I realized, I was working through some things. I think that really, really struck me how much better I felt working through. My mother died in 2018 after a long fight with cancer. And I, over the course of the next several years, basically had to work my way through grief. And so I was writing a series of books called The Forgotten. And it was about these soldiers who had lost their memories. And so in trying to figure out what their life was, and I didn't even realize until I'm at basically almost the end of book one, that this is about grief. This whole series is really about dealing with grief and finding out who you are on the other side of grief, moving from grief to mourning, which grief is something that's very fresh and it affects you. And mourning is something you can do for the rest of your life in a gentle way. So I kind of worked my way through that. I worked my way through anxiety. I've worked my way through the fact that I don't think the way other people think, and that can be okay too. So I think that hopefully, if it helped me, it might help even one other person to get through it, then I have done my job.
And I'm sure it's helping readers too, as well, seeing issues on the page of like books by an author they love that they can really resonate with.
I've pretty much done everything from, I think that writers, we're the scientists of human experience. So if what we are really trying to do is express all avenues of humanity, I like to delve into romance, especially. We delve into some really hard topics, and we do it kind of fearlessly. And I love that we do that. I think that we are a deeply misunderstood genre from people who don't read it. And they think that it's like a crazy, wacky rom-com every time, or just, sex on the page. It's not. We do an enormous amount of therapeutic work of putting these characters through and putting ourselves bleeding on the page. So, yeah.
How do your books act as like a mirror to what's going on in the world as well? Do you find that happens on the greater sense?
I started this book series, a new one, New Recruits, and everybody thought I was really whacked out and crazy because I was talking about how this is set in the near future. So because this is a second gen book where basically the children of the first generation books are now the heroes and heroines, and it's a spy series, so it's CIA. And I posited several years back that we would have strained relations with Canada. Mm-hmm.
So you're the reason this is happening? No, just kidding.
No, I also wrote a book series called The Perfect Gentleman, where Russia was screwing with our elections. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I like to do some stuff about like what's happening in the world, especially when you're writing spy thrillers. Knowing some of the conflicts that are in the world is very important because that, of course, is going to have ramifications on what your spies are doing.
I guess it almost, because, not groundbreaking to say this, but things feel a bit chaotic at the moment.
Yes.
But does that give you an aspect of control as well? That here feels a bit more like you're controlling things in a similar space because you're writing out this world?
Oh, I think that one of the things that romance writers do really well is we take these terrible situations that we see in life and we find a way to fix them. We find a way to write these happily ever afters. And while they might be just the end of a book, they're also these wishes and thoughts and dreams we put out in the universe. So hopefully, I think that romance authors hopefully are trying to really actually manifest love and peace and happiness for everyone.
This might be a difficult question, and I apologize for putting you on the spot, but I kind of want to touch back on books as therapy. And I'm curious if there is a book or a series or an author that you as a reader have read and been like, oh, and that has helped you move through anything.
Anne Rice. When I was in college and was struggling to kind of find where I belonged, I was in Denton, went to this little bookstore and found Interview with a Vampire, and kind of put me on this. I found this world where she wrote so beautifully, and I felt every bit of it, and I felt like I had gone through the experience and that I was better on the other side. So it's a beautiful series of books. I think it's an absolute American classic that defies it defies genre, it defies a lot of stuff, and doesn't get the credit that it should.
I love how quickly that answer came to you.
Oh no, I can say that. I flat out
a great answer.
If the Bertree Small set me on the path for romance, of crazy kind of whacked out bonkers do anything romance, then Anne Rice set me on the path to thoughtful, real characters, even when they seem over the top. They're still grounded in this deep reality of who they are as human beings. She wrote about humans while she was writing monsters, and finding the humanity in the monster is what really makes us, really helps us grow. So yeah, that was not putting me on the spot. I know that answer really easily.
I love that. Well, as we're beginning to wind down here, I'm wondering if you have any advice for an aspiring author who's considering going the indie publishing route.
What I would say is patience is very important. It's great that we can now write and publish quickly. It is not always the best solution. I wrote 9 books before I ever published one. Master your craft, take your craft seriously. I personally think that it's very helpful to almost start with a kind of a traditional or small press, because you learn a lot from it, and they can help you build a base, and then you take that base over here and go crazy. But I do also know that a lot of times now the trad publishing views, KU as the minor leagues, like they go and then pluck them out when they do well. What I would say is be patient with yourself, trust in your craft, thick skin. If you want to be in this for the long haul, know that, sometimes it's almost worse when you come in and immediately hit big, because like I said, that wave is going to go down. There are certain authors who can sell anything. They are very, very few and far between. So to have a long-term career where you manage to feed your family over the course of 20 to 30 years just off your books, that's really where we want to be. So learn the industry, learn how to take care of your money. You get that first big check. Now I sound like your grandma. Like, honey, put that check away. Don't buy that Birkin bag. But really, don't buy that Birkin bag right away. Like, maybe when you've sold a couple of movies. But this is my finance hubby coming into play. But then he saved me from a lot of that too, because you understand that you're also going to put a lot of money into your business in a way that you don't when you're traditionally publishing. Although I know a lot of trad publishing authors who still have to put money into marketing. So that was a lot of like scattershot advice all of a sudden.
No, that was great. And I guess on the flip side of this, what advice do you have for career authors who have been publishing as long as you have? So number one, probably buy the Birkin, right?
Oh, if you got the money and you can find one, because they're elusive, like, man, they are elusive. They hide those things. They're like Waldo, like you don't know where it is. You can ask for the thing like 52 times. It's still not there. No, I would tell them, I mean, if you've been around as long as I've been around, you know the business and you know that it ebbs and flows and you kind of have to just stay the course for the most part. But I would say there's also something cool about trying new things. So I'm 15 years into this novelist career, writing books. And, I wrote my first screenplay 2 years ago. And now I'm 4 screenplays in. And so that's a completely new world that I'm trying to conquer. But I think that I kind of need it. It has made me happier to sit back down and write the books too, because I have. So I would tell career authors, stay the course, but maybe take a little vacay. See what the vacay feels like.
You mentioned screenplays, but are there any genres you would like to play in that you've never written in before?
Horror. Yeah, my first screenplay was horror, which I know I do not look like a horror. I don't. My best friend and I are usually like the oldest people walking into that slasher flick. So one time we went and there were a bunch of people our age around. We were like, are we in the right movie theater? So, but yeah, I love horror. I love horror romance. But yeah, my first screenplay was horror, and it was actually a slasher flick.
I love a slasher, so I look forward to either seeing the screenplay or reading the debut slasher novel.
Yeah,
and
I have not tried that yet. I have not gotten
yet.
Yeah, yet. I have not tried that yet, but I have the whole story. So,
what can your readers look forward to in the near future? Any irons in the fire? Any projects coming up?
Oh yeah, I've got a book called Built to Last coming out at the end of May. It's the last book in the Park Avenue Promise series, and then this summer I have a book called The Reluctant Siren, which is one of the aforementioned menages. And then in the fall, I've got a book called Spy With Me, which is one of the spy ones where we are struggling with Canada. But it's okay, because we're gonna solve that, and there's going to be an American-Canadian marriage at the end of this, the likes of which no one has ever seen. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to be back together.
Yeah, you're going to write us a beautiful future. I can't wait.
That's right.
And also, it just never, I have been doing this podcast for years, and it never ceases to amaze me when I'm like, what upcoming projects do you have? And an author's like, oh, here's my 3 upcoming releases before the end of the year. Y'all are bananasly impressive.
It is. Well, it's a job. It's a job. And I think when you kind of settle into that, we all have this dream that we're going to be like the true creative and write 1 book a year and live in our mansion. No, that's not the way publishing works, man. That's what kills me when I read a book and the heroine is an author and she's written 1 book and she gets into her Porsche. And I'm like, really? I will tell you, the real 1 book author, she's in her sweatpants with her hair tossed on top of her head, wondering if that Starbucks card still has cash on it. That's what we're really like.
That's how I feel about the characters that work in publishing and have giant apartments. You're like,
yes. Yeah, it's what with Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City. Sure, she had that all from 1 column that she wrote. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's been so lovely to chat with you. I feel like we could keep talking forever, and I hope I get to see you in person again soon.
Yes.
Yes. So where can listeners find you online? And I guess in person, if you have any appearances coming up.
I'm coming. I think I'm only doing, I don't think I know I'm only doing 2 shows this year. Doing Kiss and Tell if you're in Grapevine, Texas. I can basically walk there with my books. So that is end of June. And then I'm doing Books by the Lake in Montana in late September.
Oh, lovely.
I've never been to Montana, so I'm excited about that.
Nice. And where can listeners find you online?
I am pretty much on all the socials as author Lexi Blake.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for chatting with us. This has been so fun.
Thank you for listening to the Kobo Writing Life podcast. If you are interested in picking up Lexi's books, we will include links in our show notes. And if you are enjoying this podcast, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you're looking for more tips on growing your self-publishing business, you can find us at kobowritinglife.com. And be sure you are following us on social media. We are at Kobo Writing Life on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads.
This episode was hosted by Rachel Wharton and Tara Kremen, with production by Terrence Abrahams. Editing is provided by Kelly Robotham, and our theme music is composed by Tearjerker. And thanks to Lexi for joining us today. If you are ready to start your publishing journey, sign up today at kobo.com/writinglife. Until next time, happy writing.